I still remember the moment our scanners detected the signal buried beneath the asteroid's crust, a frequency older than our species, older than every star chart ever drawn. I should have turned back. I should have warned them. But instead, I touched it. Before I go on, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I want to know how far my story travels across the stars. The light of the control room felt colder that day. My hands trembled. And somewhere deep inside the rock, something awakened. The vastness of space enveloped us, a black ocean speckled with distant stars, each one a flickering reminder of our insignificance. I was aboard the research vessel Elysium, a name that once filled me with hope. Now it felt like a cruel joke. The ship creaked and groaned as we drifted through the void, a fragile shell against the cosmic winds. My fellow crew members, all experts in their fields, were oblivious to the growing dread that clawed at my insides. But I could sense it, a whisper of danger lurking just beyond the veil of our understanding. We were on a routine mission, scanning for signals from the remnants of ancient civilizations. It was a task we had undertaken countless times before, but this time was different. This time, we found something. The signal was a complex tapestry of mathematical sequences, an intricate dance of numbers that suggested intelligence. The moment we deciphered its origin, my heart raced. It came from a system light years away, a place where no human had ventured. As I stared at the data flickering across my screen, I felt a pull, a connection to the unknown. What civilization had sent this message? What had they wanted? I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that our every move was being scrutinized by eyes long gone. I glanced at my crewmates, their faces illuminated by the glow of the monitors, filled with excitement and anticipation. They were ready to chase this ghost, to unravel its secrets. But I hesitated, a nagging voice in the back of my mind warning me of the consequences. "Alex, are you with us?" Dr. Mira, our lead xenologist, snapped me from my reverie. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the haze of my thoughts. "Yeah, I'm here," I replied, forcing a smile. "What's the plan?" Mira leaned closer to the screen, her eyes wide with wonder. "We need to investigate the source. This could be the discovery of a lifetime." I nodded, but my heart sank. The thrill of exploration was intoxicating, yet I felt a weight pressing down on me, a sense of foreboding that I couldn't ignore. I had seen enough in my years of deep space exploration to know that not all discoveries were meant to be unearthed. As we prepared to engage the engines, I took a moment to collect my thoughts. The hum of the ship resonated within me, a reminder of the fragile line we walked between knowledge and oblivion. I could almost hear the echoes of civilizations lost to time, their warning swallowed by the void. "Engaging thrusters," the pilot announced, his voice steady. The ship shuddered as we propelled ourselves toward the unknown, and I felt a mix of excitement and dread. The stars blurred into streaks of light as we accelerated, the darkness of space closing in around us. I found myself lost in a sea of thoughts, contemplating the vastness of the universe and our place within it. Each pulse of the ship's engines reminded me of the heartbeat of the cosmos, a rhythm that had existed long before humanity took its first breath. As we approached the coordinates, the signal intensified, a siren call that beckoned us closer. I could feel the energy thrumming through the ship, a palpable force that made the hair on my arms stand on end. It was beautiful and terrifying, a reminder of the power that lay hidden in the depths of the universe. "There it is," Mira exclaimed, pointing at the view screen. Before us lay a massive, derelict spacecraft, its hull pockmarked and battered by the passage of time. It floated silently, a ghost ship adrift in the void, and I could hardly breathe. The sight was both awe-inspiring and chilling. What had happened to its crew? What secrets did it hold? "Prepare a boarding party," the captain ordered, his voice steady but resolute. "We need to find out what this is." I felt a knot form in my stomach. The ship was a relic of a bygone era, a testament to a civilization that had once thrived. But what if it had been abandoned for a reason? What if it was a tomb, a warning not to be disturbed? As we donned our suits and gathered our equipment, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were stepping into a trap. The thrill of discovery was intoxicating, but the weight of my unease pressed down harder with each passing moment. We boarded the derelict ship, the air thick with dust and the scent of decay. The interior was a labyrinth of corridors, each one echoing with the whispers of a long-lost civilization. As we moved deeper into the vessel, I felt a chill creep up my spine. The walls were adorned with strange symbols, their meanings lost to time, and I could sense the presence of something ancient lurking just beyond our reach. "Look at this," Mira said, stopping in front of a console covered in grime. She brushed her gloved hand across the surface, revealing intricate designs that seemed to pulse with energy. "This technology is unlike anything we've ever seen." I stepped closer, my heart racing. The console flickered to life, casting an eerie glow across the room. The symbols danced before our eyes, a language that transcended time and space. I could feel the hum of power resonating within me, a connection to something greater than myself. But as the screen illuminated, I felt a sudden shift in the air, a tension that prickled at the back of my neck. It was as if the ship itself was awakening, responding to our presence. "Something's not right," I muttered, glancing at the others. Their faces were filled with wonder, but I could see the flicker of uncertainty in their eyes. "Let's keep going," the captain urged, his voice firm. "We're here to uncover the truth." We pressed on, deeper into the ship's bowels, the atmosphere thickening with each step. The corridors twisted and turned, leading us to a chamber that felt alive, pulsating with energy. As we entered, the room exploded with light, blinding us momentarily. I shielded my eyes, heart pounding in my chest. When the brightness faded, I found myself staring at a colossal artifact, a crystalline structure that seemed to hum with power. "What is this?" Mira breathed, stepping closer. I felt drawn to it, an inexplicable urge to reach out and touch the surface. But as I extended my hand, a voice echoed in my mind, a warning that sent chills down my spine. "Do not awaken what lies within." The words reverberated through me, a stark reminder of the dangers we faced. But before I could retract my hand, the artifact pulsed, and a wave of energy surged through the chamber. Alarms blared, red lights flashing as the ship shuddered violently. Panic erupted among the crew as we scrambled to maintain our footing. "Get back!" the captain shouted, his voice barely audible over the chaos. But it was too late. The artifact had awakened, and with it a defense mechanism designed to protect the relic. The walls trembled, and the very ship seemed to come alive, responding to the threat we posed. I was thrown against the wall, my vision spinning. The last thing I saw before darkness enveloped me was the crystalline structure radiating a blinding light, a beacon of ancient power that had been dormant for millennia. When I regained consciousness, the ship was in disarray. My crewmates were scattered, their faces etched with fear and confusion. The air was thick with smoke, and the alarms continued to blare, a cacophony of impending doom. "Alex, are you okay?" Mira's voice cut through the chaos, her eyes wide with concern. I think so," I stammered, pushing myself up. "What happened?" "The artifact, it activated something," she said, her voice trembling. "We need to get out of here." The ship was collapsing around us, its systems failing as the ancient defense mechanism unleashed its fury. We stumbled through the corridors, the walls closing in, a tomb that sought to reclaim its secrets. "Over here," the captain shouted, leading us toward an emergency exit. As we ran, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had awakened something far beyond our comprehension. The weight of our discovery hung over us like a dark cloud, and I could feel the echoes of the past whispering warnings in my mind. We burst through the exit, gasping for breath as we emerged into the cold vacuum of space. The Elysium floated nearby, its hull battered but intact. We scrambled aboard, the crew working frantically to regain control of the ship. As the engines roared to life, I glanced back at the derelict vessel, now engulfed in chaos. The light from the artifact flickered one last time before the ship imploded, a brilliant flash that swallowed it whole. I felt a chill run down my spine as the realization hit me. We had disturbed something that was never meant to be disturbed. The weight of our actions settled heavily on my shoulders, and I knew that this was only the beginning. As we charted a course away from the wreckage, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had set something in motion, a chain of events that would forever alter the course of our existence. The silence of space enveloped us once more, but it was a silence filled with dread. The echoes of the past lingered, and I could feel the weight of a warning pressing down on me. We had awakened a force that had been dormant for eons, and I couldn't help but wonder what consequences awaited us in the depths of the cosmos. The stars shone brightly against the darkness, but I knew that the light they emitted was merely a reflection of the ancient secrets they held. And as we drifted further into the void, I realized that we were no longer just explorers. We were bearers of a message, a warning from the depths of time, and the universe was listening. The chaos aboard the Elysium was a tempest of confusion and panic, a maelstrom of emotions swirling through the cramped corridors. I could hear the distant echoes of alarms blaring, each shriek a reminder of the calamity we had unleashed. My heart raced as I stumbled into the control room, where Mira was already frantically tapping at the console, her fingers a blur against the glowing interface. "Alex, we need to stabilize the ship," she shouted, her voice cracking under the pressure. I could see the fear etched on her face, mirroring my own turmoil. "What happened back there?" I managed to ask, my voice barely a whisper. The images of the derelict ship flashed in my mind, the ancient artifact pulsing with energy that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of the cosmos. "I don't know," Mira replied, her brow furrowing in concentration. "But whatever we activated, it triggered something catastrophic. The systems are failing, and we're losing power." I turned to the captain, who was pacing back and forth, his expression a mixture of determination and dread. "We need to get out of here," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Mira, can you reroute the power to the engines?" "I'll try," she said, her voice steadying as she focused on the console. I could see the sweat glistening on her forehead, the weight of our situation pressing down on us all. As Mira worked, I felt a chill creep up my spine. The realization that we had disturbed something ancient and powerful weighed heavily on my conscience. We had come seeking knowledge, but now we were fleeing from the consequences of our curiosity. "Alex, help me with the navigation," Mira called out, pulling me back to the present. I rushed to her side, my hands moving instinctively over the controls. The ship's systems flickered erratically, and I could feel the vibrations of the hull as it struggled against the forces that were tearing it apart. "Coordinates locked," I announced, my voice filled with urgency. "But we need more power to initiate the jump." "Then we'll have to divert it from life support," the captain interjected, his voice resolute. "Mira, can you reroute the power to the engines?" "I'll try," she said, her voice steadying as she focused on the console. I could see the sweat glistening on her forehead, the weight of our situation pressing down on us all. As Mira worked, I felt a chill creep up my spine. The realization that we had disturbed something ancient and powerful weighed heavily on my conscience. We had come seeking knowledge, but now we were fleeing from the consequences of our curiosity. "Alex, help me with the navigation," Mira called out, pulling me back to the present. I rushed to her side, my hands moving instinctively over the controls. The ship's systems flickered erratically, and I could feel the vibrations of the hull as it struggled against the forces that were tearing it apart. "Coordinates locked," I announced, my voice filled with urgency. "But we need more power to initiate the jump." "Then we'll have to divert it from life support," the captain interjected, his voice resolute. "It's a risk, but it's our only chance." I hesitated for a moment, the moral weight of the decision hanging in the air. We were sacrificing our safety for the sake of escape. The lives of my crewmates were at stake, and yet I couldn't shake the feeling that we were abandoning something vital. "Do it," I said finally, my voice steady. "We don't have a choice." Mira's fingers danced over the console as she rerouted the power, the lights flickering ominously. The ship trembled beneath us, and I could hear the distant groans of metal straining against the forces of the cosmos. "Jump prep complete," she shouted, her eyes wide with determination. "Engage," the captain commanded, his voice cutting through the tension. The engines roared to life, and I felt the familiar sensation of weightlessness as the ship prepared to jump into hyperspace. But just as we were about to breach the threshold, a violent shudder coursed through the Elysium. The lights dimmed, and the alarms blared even louder, a cacophony of impending doom. "Hold on," the captain shouted, as the ship was thrown violently against the bulkheads. I gripped the console, my heart pounding in my chest. "Systems failing," Mira cried out, her voice laced with panic. "We're losing control." Before I could respond, the ship lurched again, and I was thrown to the ground. The world around me spun, a dizzying blur of chaos and fear. I could hear the cries of my crewmates, the sound of metal screaming as the ship was torn apart by the forces we had awakened. "Alex!" Mira's voice cut through the chaos, and I looked up to see her struggling to regain her footing. "We have to stabilize the core." With a surge of adrenaline, I scrambled to my feet, my mind racing with the urgency of the moment. "Where's the core?" "Main engineering," she shouted, pointing toward the access hatch. I nodded, and together we made our way through the wreckage of the control room, dodging falling debris as we sprinted toward engineering. The ship groaned around us, the walls vibrating with the fury of the awakening relic. As we reached the engineering bay, the sight that greeted us was nothing short of catastrophic. The core was flickering erratically, a pulsating mass of energy that seemed to hum with an otherworldly resonance. "Can you stabilize it?" I asked, my voice filled with urgency. "I'll try," Mira said, her expression fierce as she approached the console. "But we need to reroute the energy flow. It's too unstable." I nodded, my mind racing as I tried to remember the protocols from training. "I'll help you," I said, moving to her side. Together, we began to work in tandem, our hands moving over the console as we struggled to regain control. The ship continued to shake violently, the alarms blaring in a deafening chorus of despair. Come on," Mira urged, her voice strained with effort. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the realization that our actions had consequences far beyond our understanding. We had awakened a force that had been dormant for eons, and now we were fighting for our lives against the very thing we had sought to uncover. As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were racing against time. The energy levels were rising, and I could sense the impending catastrophe looming over us like a dark cloud. "Almost there," Mira shouted, her voice filled with determination. Just as I thought we might succeed, a blinding flash of light erupted from the core, and I was thrown backward, my vision filled with white-hot intensity. My ears rang as I struggled to regain my bearings, the world around me spinning in a chaotic whirlwind. "Alex!" Mira's voice broke through the haze, and I blinked to see her scrambling to her feet. "We have to get out of here." I nodded, pushing myself up, but the ship was already beginning to implode. The walls creaked and groaned, and I could feel the air growing thick with smoke and debris. "Now!" the captain shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. We bolted for the exit, the heat of the flames licking at our heels as we raced through the corridor. I could hear the cries of my crewmates, the sound of panic echoing in the air. As we reached the airlock, I turned back for a moment, my heart heavy with the weight of our discovery. We had come seeking knowledge, but now we were fleeing from the consequences of our curiosity. I glanced at Mira, who was already preparing to seal the airlock. "What about the others?" I asked, panic rising in my chest. "They'll have to make it on their own," she shouted, her voice filled with urgency. "We can't stay here." With a heavy heart, I nodded, knowing that we had to prioritize our survival. The door sealed shut behind us, and I felt a pang of guilt as we jettisoned away from the wreckage of the Elysium. As we drifted into the cold vacuum of space, I watched in horror as the ship erupted in a brilliant flash of light, a cataclysmic explosion that swallowed it whole. The remnants of our discovery were reduced to cosmic dust, and I felt a chill run down my spine. We had disturbed something that was never meant to be disturbed, and the weight of our actions settled heavily on my shoulders. The silence of space enveloped us once more, but it was a silence filled with dread. "Alex," Mira said, her voice trembling as she turned to me, "what have we done?" I could only shake my head, the enormity of our situation crashing over me like a tidal wave. We had awakened a force that had been lying dormant for eons, and now we were left to grapple with the consequences. As we drifted further into the void, I realized that we were no longer just explorers. We were bearers of a message, a warning from the depths of time, and the universe was listening. The stars shone brightly against the darkness, but I knew that the light they emitted was merely a reflection of the ancient secrets they held. I could feel the echoes of the past whispering warnings in my mind, and I wondered what consequences awaited us in the depths of the cosmos. "Prepare for a jump," the captain said, his voice steady despite the turmoil. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. We were on the brink of something monumental, a revelation that would change the course of our existence. But as we charted our course through the stars, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that the universe itself was waiting for us to uncover its secrets. And deep down, I knew that this was only the beginning. The silence between the stars was a deceptive kind of quiet. It was a void that echoed with the weight of ancient secrets, a vast expanse that seemed to stretch infinitely, yet felt suffocating. I floated in the dark, tethered to the remnants of our ship, the Elysium, a ghost of what we had once been. The memory of the explosion lingered like a specter, haunting my thoughts as I stared into the abyss. Mira had retreated into herself, her eyes glazed over as she processed the chaos we had just escaped. I could see the tremors in her hands, the way she clenched her jaw as if holding back the flood of emotions that threatened to consume her. We were alone now, adrift in the cold vacuum of space, and the reality of our situation began to sink in. I had always prided myself on being a seeker of knowledge, a pioneer in the vast unknown, but now that very pursuit felt like a curse. The relic we had uncovered, the dormant force we had awakened, was more than just an object. It was a harbinger of doom. My mind raced with questions, each one more unsettling than the last. What had we unleashed? What consequences awaited us? As I drifted, I felt the weight of the universe pressing down on me. The stars, once a source of wonder, now felt like distant observers, watching with silent judgment. I thought about the civilizations that had come before us, their achievements lost to time, their warnings buried in the annals of history. Had they faced a fate similar to ours? Had they awakened something that had ultimately led to their destruction? The silence was oppressive, a reminder of our isolation. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the noise in my head, but the memories flooded back. The frantic escape, the blinding light of the explosion, the realization that we were now marked by the very thing we had sought to understand. I could still hear the screams of my crewmates, the chaos echoing in my mind like a relentless drumbeat. It felt as if the universe itself was mocking us, taunting us for our hubris. "Alex," Mira's voice broke through my reverie, soft yet strained. "What do we do now?" I opened my eyes, meeting her gaze. There was a vulnerability in her expression that struck a chord within me. We were both grappling with the enormity of our actions, and the silence that surrounded us was heavy with unspoken fears. "We need to figure out what that message meant," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "There has to be a reason we were chosen to receive it." She nodded, her brow furrowing in thought. "But how? We barely escaped with our lives. The ship, it's gone. We're stranded." The reality of our situation hit me like a punch to the gut. We were alone in a vast cosmos, with no means of communication and no allies to turn to. Yet, deep within me, a flicker of determination ignited. We may be stranded, but we still have our minds. We can decode the message. We can understand what we've uncovered. Mira's eyes brightened slightly, and I could see the spark of hope beginning to flicker within her. "You think it holds the key to stopping whatever is coming?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. "I have to believe it does. If there's even a chance that we can prevent what we've awakened, we owe it to ourselves and to the civilizations that came before us to try." The darkness of space felt less suffocating as we began to formulate a plan. We would gather our thoughts, sift through the fragments of the message, and piece together the puzzle that had been handed to us. We had been given a glimpse into something greater than ourselves, and it was our duty to honor that gift. As we floated in the void, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping through our fingers like stardust. The longer we lingered in our isolation, the closer we came to the unknown threat that loomed beyond the stars. I could feel the pressure building, a palpable tension that hung in the air, urging us to act. With renewed purpose, I initiated a mental exercise I had learned during my training as an explorer. I closed my eyes again, focusing on the remnants of the message that had echoed through the ship before the chaos erupted. Mathematical sequences, patterns, symbols, each one a thread in the tapestry of understanding we needed to weave. Let's start with what we remember, I suggested, my voice steady. The sequences seem to correlate with celestial phenomena. We need to analyze them in relation to the star systems we've encountered. Mira nodded, her expression shifting from despair to resolve. Right, we can use the ship's logs to cross-reference the data. There might be something in the patterns that can give us insight. We began to sift through the remnants of our ship systems, piecing together fragments of information as we worked in tandem. It was a delicate dance, a balance of intellect and intuition as we sought to decode the enigma that had been thrust upon us. Each discovery felt like a small victory, a glimmer of hope in the darkness that surrounded us. As we delved deeper into the analysis, I felt a growing sense of urgency. The message we had received was more than a warning. It was a blueprint for understanding the past and preparing for the future. Each sequence we deciphered revealed a connection to the civilizations that had existed long before us, their wisdom echoing through the ages. Hours turned into days as we worked tirelessly, our minds racing against the clock. The silence of space became a backdrop to our shared determination, a canvas on which we painted our understanding of the cosmos. With every breakthrough, we felt the weight of our responsibility grow heavier, but it also fueled our resolve. One evening, as I stared at the data displayed on the console, a realization struck me like a bolt of lightning. "Mira, look at this!" I pointed to a specific sequence that had emerged from our analysis. "This pattern, it's a map." Her eyes widened as she leaned closer, studying the information. A map? To where? To a location in the Andromeda Galaxy. It aligns with the coordinates of the ancient civilization that sent the warning. If we can reach it, we might find answers that could help us understand what we've awakened. Mira's expression shifted from disbelief to determination. But how do we get there? We don't have a ship. I felt a surge of hope. We may not have the Elysium, but we have our skills. We can build something, a makeshift vessel. If we can gather the right resources, we can reach that location. The prospect of action ignited a fire within me. We were no longer passive observers, we were active participants in our fate. We would not let the silence of the cosmos swallow us whole. We would forge our path, even if it meant starting from scratch. As we began to brainstorm ideas, I felt a sense of camaraderie growing between us. The isolation that had once felt suffocating now became a shared experience, a bond forged in the crucible of adversity. We were two souls navigating the vast unknown, united by a common purpose. Days turned into weeks as we scavenged the remnants of our ship, repurposing materials and piecing together a vessel that would carry us toward the unknown. Each moment was filled with a sense of urgency, a reminder that time was not on our side. The threat we had awakened loomed in the shadows, and we had to act before it was too late. As we worked, I found myself reflecting on the nature of existence. The universe was a tapestry woven with the threads of countless stories, each one a testament to the resilience of life. We were but a small part of that grand narrative, yet our choices held the power to shape the course of history. One evening, as we labored under the dim glow of our makeshift lights, Mira paused, her expression contemplative. "Do you ever think about what awaits us out there? What if we're not ready for what we find?" I met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words. I do, but we can't let fear paralyze us. The unknown is daunting, but it's also where discovery lies. We have to trust in our ability to face whatever comes next. She nodded, a flicker of determination igniting in her eyes. "You're right. We've come this far. We can't stop now." With renewed purpose, we continued our work, pouring our energy into the vessel we were constructing. It was a labor of love, a manifestation of our shared resolve to confront the unknown and uncover the truth that lay beyond the stars. As we neared completion, the day finally arrived when we stood before our creation, a vessel forged from the remnants of our past, ready to carry us into the depths of the cosmos. It was a humble craft, but it symbolized our defiance against the silence that had once threatened to consume us. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, we prepared for launch. The coordinates of the ancient civilization beckoned, a siren call that resonated deep within me. We were on the precipice of discovery, and I could feel the weight of history pressing down upon us. As we initiated the launch sequence, I glanced at Mira, her eyes reflecting the determination we both felt. This is it. We're about to uncover the truth. She smiled, a flicker of hope illuminating her features. Together. With a final breath, I activated the engines, and the vessel surged forward, propelled into the vastness of space. The stars blurred into streaks of light as we hurtled toward our destination, and I felt a surge of exhilaration mixed with fear. The silence that had once felt oppressive now transformed into a symphony of possibilities, a canvas upon which we would paint our destiny. As we navigated through the cosmos, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought us here. We had faced chaos, uncertainty, and fear, yet we had emerged stronger, united by our shared purpose. The relic we had uncovered had awakened something within us, a fire that burned bright against the darkness. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but I knew that we were no longer alone. The echoes of the past guided us, their wisdom illuminating our path. We were not just explorers, we were guardians of a legacy that transcended time. As we approached the coordinates, I felt a sense of anticipation building within me. The unknown awaited, and I was ready to face it head-on. Whatever lay ahead, I knew that we would confront it together, armed with the knowledge and courage we had forged in the crucible of our shared experience. And as the stars beckoned us closer, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were on the brink of something monumental, a revelation that would change the course of our existence forever. The silence between the stars was no longer an emptiness. It was a promise of discovery, a testament to the resilience of life in the face of the unknown.